The American motorcycle industry is dying right before our eyes, and I'm about to show you exactly which legendary American motorcycle brands won't survive 2025. What I'm about to tell you will shock every rider in America. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Harley-Davidson, the company that once owned the soul of American motorcycling. Harley-Davidson started the year with a double-digit sales decline, and their Q4 2024 results were not pretty, with 2025 not looking much better. But here's what really pisses me off about Harley's collapse. They did this to themselves. For years, they've been chasing younger riders with electric bikes and adventure motorcycles, while completely abandoning the blue-collar Americans who made them legendary. Remember the Livewire? That $30,000 electric disaster that nobody asked for and even fewer people bought? That wasn't innovation. That was corporate suicide disguised as progress. Now look where it got them. Their traditional customer base, guys like us who grew up dreaming of that Harley rumble, were being priced out of our own culture. A basic Sportster that cost $8,000 in 2010 now runs you $15,000 or more? A Road King that was $18,000 5 years ago? Try $28,000 today. That's not inflation, brothers. That's greed. And here's the kicker. While they're charging luxury car prices, they're still giving you the same air-cooled Milwaukee 8 technology that your grandfather would recognize. Meanwhile, Indian is rolling out modern liquid-cooled engines. BMW has advanced rider aids, and even the Japanese bikes are leaving Harley in the technological dust. But the worst part? Harley's financing division is about to be their final nail in the coffin. With interest rates hovering near 10%, nobody can afford to finance these overpriced garage queens. The guys who could afford them with cash are smart enough to wait for the inevitable fire sale that's coming. Now let's talk about Indian Motorcycle, the brand that rose from the dead once and is about to die again, but this time for good. Despite introducing key new models, Indian is projecting lower revenues, with makers of expensive motorcycles like Indian reporting slower sales. Indian had everything going for them when Polaris brought them back. They had the heritage, the technology, and most importantly, they weren't Harley-Davidson. But then they made the same fatal mistakes that are killing every American motorcycle company right now. First, they got greedy with pricing. The Scout, which was supposed to be their entry-level bike to compete with Harley's Sportster, now starts at $13,000. For an entry-level bike? That's more than most Americans spend on a car. How are you supposed to build brand loyalty when your cheapest bike costs more than a decent used truck? Second, they completely destroyed their brand identity with that logo disaster. In 2023, they took the iconic Indian head logo that connected them to nearly 120 years of American motorcycle history and replaced it with some soulless corporate design that looks like it was created by a committee who hates motorcycles. The backlash was immediate and brutal, but did Indian listen to their customers? Hell no. But here's what's really killing Indian. Their dealer network is pathetic. You break down in rural America on an Indian, good luck finding parts or someone certified to fix it. Harley's got 700 dealers across the country. Indian's got maybe 300, and half of them look like they're about to close tomorrow. The writing's on the wall, boys. Indian survived the first collapse in 1953, came back strong in 2013, but this time, there's no white knight coming to save them. Polaris has bigger fish to fry with their ATV and side-by-side business, and Indian motorcycles are about to become expensive wall art. Speaking of Indian, let's talk about their parent company, Polaris. These corporate suits from Minnesota are like vampires, sucking the life out of every motorcycle brand they touch. Remember Victory motorcycles? Polaris launched it in 1998 to compete with Harley, actually built some decent bikes, and then killed it in 2017 when it wasn't immediately profitable enough. Victory riders got screwed overnight. Parts became scarce, resale values collapsed, and suddenly you owned a motorcycle from a dead brand. But here's the kicker. Victory was actually building innovative bikes. The Vision had modern features, the cross-country was competitive with Harley's touring lineup, and they were finally gaining market traction. But Polaris didn't want to wait for long-term success. They wanted quarterly profits. And when Victory didn't deliver like their ATV division, They pulled the plug. And now the exact same thing is happening to Indian. Polaris reported lower than expected results with specific headwinds for Indian motorcycles. And Indian is projecting lower revenues despite introducing new models. The writing's on the wall: reduced marketing spend, fewer new model launches, and dealerships increasingly focused on selling Polaris side-by-sides instead of motorcycles. They're setting up Indian for the same death spiral they put Victory through. Now, let's talk about a brand that should be dominating, but is instead dying a slow, painful death. Buell. In February 2021, Buell announced motorcycle production had returned under Eric Buell Racing ownership, promising to build approximately 10 models by 2024, including Tourings, Dirt, Adventure, and Cruisers. Sounds great, right? Wrong. Here we are in 2025, and where are those 10 models? Where's the dealer network? Where's the marketing push? Buell is like that friend who keeps saying they're going to start working out but never actually goes to the gym. Eric Buell had lightning in a bottle back in the day. The original Buells were innovative, exciting, and different from everything else on the road. But this comeback attempt, it's been 4 years of promises and press releases with almost nothing to show for it. Meanwhile, the motorcycle market is collapsing around them, and they're still playing catch-up with vaporware. Here's one of the most American motorcycle brands you've probably never heard of: Boss Hoss. Founded in 1990 in Tennessee, Boss Hoss manufactures motorcycles with 376 to 496 cubic inch Chevrolet 5.8 engines. We're talking about motorcycles with more horsepower than most cars. These bikes have more horsepower than a 2024 Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Sounds incredible, right? So why is Boss Hoss dying? Because nobody wants an 800-pound motorcycle that gets 15 miles per gallon and costs $45,000. By the mid-1990s, Boss Hoss was selling 300 vehicles per year, and as of 2006, they'd sold over 4,000 vehicles. But here's the problem: those numbers haven't grown at all in an industry that should be expanding. Boss Hoss is selling the same 200 to 300 bikes per year they were selling 15 years ago. Their dealer network is shrinking. Boss Hoss dealerships are closing, with Boss Hoss Cycles of Virginia officially closing their doors and resigning their franchise. When your dealers are bailing out, you know you're in trouble. A brand that perfectly represents everything wrong with American motorcycle companies: Curtiss Motorcycles, formerly Confederate Motors. In 2017, Confederate Motors announced they were renaming themselves Curtiss Motorcycles and switching to all-electric motorcycles with a partnership with Zero Motorcycles. Think about this for a second. Confederate Motors was known for building some of the most insane, powerful, gasoline-burning motorcycles on the planet. Bikes that cost $150,000 and were basically rolling works of art. Then they decided to abandon everything their customers loved and chase the electric dream. The Warhawk will be the final and only gasoline motorcycle under the Curtiss brand, with a limited run of just 35 bikes. So they're killing off the product that made them legendary to bet everything on electric motorcycles in a market where even Tesla is struggling to make electric vehicles profitable. How's that working out? Their website still calls them a creator of heirloom, luxury electric motorcycles. But where are the bikes? Where are the sales numbers? Where are the happy customers posting on social media? Curtiss is like the poster child for American motorcycle companies making stupid decisions. They had a profitable niche making incredible gasoline bikes for wealthy collectors, and they threw it all away to chase a market that doesn't exist. And speaking of companies that have lost their minds with pricing, let's talk about Combat Motors. These guys are building motorcycles like the Wraith, priced at $155,000 and powered by a 132 cubic inch S&S V-twin. They're calling their F117 Fighter the wildest American-made motorcycle that money can buy. And they might be right, but here's the problem. Nobody has that kind of money to spend on a motorcycle in 2025. We're living through the worst motorcycle market collapse in decades. And Combat Motors is out here building $250,000 motorcycles like it's still 2005. Their target customer is a guy who made his money in crypto and wants to spend more on a bike than most people spend on their house. How many of those guys are there? Maybe 50 in the entire country. Combat Motors represents everything that's wrong with boutique American motorcycle brands. They're building incredible machines that nobody can afford, with no dealer network, no parts support, and no realistic business plan. They're not building motorcycles, they're building expensive garage art. So here's my bold forecast for 2025. And I want you to remember this video when I'm proven right. Harley-Davidson will survive, barely. They'll continue cutting production, closing dealerships, and raising prices until they're essentially a boutique luxury brand for wealthy boomers. The Harley your grandfather rode will be as dead as the Cadillac your grandfather drove. Indian Motorcycle is done. Polaris will announce their strategic restructuring sometime in the third quarter of 2025. They'll blame market conditions, but the truth is, they never had the commitment to build a real motorcycle company. Boss Hoss will disappear quietly. No dramatic announcement, no press release. They'll just stop answering the phones one day, and 6 months later, someone will notice they're gone. Curtis Motorcycles is already dead. They just haven't admitted it yet. You can't kill your core product to chase a market that doesn't exist and expect to survive. Combat Motors will become a footnote in motorcycle history, remembered as the company that built $250,000 bikes during the worst motorcycle recession in 40 years. Buell will remain in perpetual comeback mode, always 6 months away from their next big announcement, until Eric Buell finally gives up and sells the name to someone else. The American motorcycle dream isn't dying, it's already dead. These companies killed it with greed, corporate mismanagement, and a complete abandonment of the working-class riders who built their brands. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening to American motorcycles, smash that like button and subscribe for more brutal truth about the motorcycle industry. Share this with every rider you know because they need to understand what's coming. Leave a comment and tell me, which American motorcycle brand do you think dies first? My money's on Curtis being officially bankrupt by summer, but I want to hear your predictions. The golden age of American motorcycles is over, brothers. The only question now is how many brands will be left standing when the smoke clears.